Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the MICROSAIC Systems PLC pre-close trading update investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. It can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab situated in the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Glenn Tracy, CEO of MICROSAIC Systems PLC. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you to everybody for attending this update. So what I'll do is I'll get stuck straight in. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Glenn Tracy, the CEO. And what I'll do to you today is to update you on the RNS we released earlier this week, which reflected on the progress of 2021, and I'll give you my view as to where we're going to be in 2022. What I'm going to do is turn my camera off so you can actually see the slides, and I'll turn it back on when we are towards the end and I can answer some of your questions. Okay, so headlines for last year. So 1 million of orders for the year, which represents a major turnaround on 2020 for the company and puts us ahead of pre-COVID levels. We will be reporting margins and cash at a later date, but suffice to say that 2021 saw us accelerating market access while seeking to be prudent in operational expenditure, and we are attracting a very comfortable margin. We did experience some global supply issues. Most of us have done in our personal, professional lives, but this really only affected about 10% orders to shipments. And in any case, that backlog will be shipped early in the year, this year. So in actual fact, the effects of the global supply issue were relatively contained, and we'll continue to mitigate whatever comes our way. But what I do want to show is that 2021 was about underlying transformation in the business. And that really has occurred since taking our 5.5 million placing and strategy pivot early last year. First is our transition to workflow solution sales. That's really the important aspect here. That's establishing a much higher level end user engagement, and that will drive significantly the opportunities during 2022. Also, we've refocused on growing our business in conjunction with partners such as DeepVerge in real-time water analysis, detection collaborations, contract research organizations in bioprocessing, and also the extension of our Chinese facility with a range of local partners in China. 2022, we're going to be building out a range of strategic partners we're having some very good discussions with across markets in environmental and human health. And really the takeaway for this slide is, if 2021 was about turnaround and transition, then this year, 2022, is about significant business inflection. Now, what I'm going to do, obviously, this is all about the progress of last year. So I'm going to just take you through some of the highlights of last year. Okay, so starting in May, we announced a collaboration with SWANSEA Medical School. This collaboration includes the Environment Agency and also industrial partners in the UK for environmental water monitoring. It involves lab analysis, real-time screening for remote samples, and also monitoring in established utility companies. And the overall aim is to inform monitoring efficiency by embedding our technology within a artificial intelligence layer to inform faster decisions at the point of need. And also this research, or the research that spins out of this, will also inform a link between forever chemicals and specific genetic changes in the human genome. So really some quite large aspirations with that collaboration. But basically, in the short term, the information and connections are going to be invaluable in driving sales and commercial activity in 2022. Just taking you through the year again. So in July, we announced that we demonstrated a world first method for real-time monitoring and control of biologic therapeutics manufacture. And those, of course, range from biologics, therapeutics, such as vaccines, anti-cancer treatments, etc. And by integrating our miniaturized, powerful technology through software and analytics into bioprocessing workflows, we were able to show that we could speed up the potential drug development timelines and also reduce the cost of scaling up production. We're different, one, because of our size, and two, because we can monitor multiple elements in the bioreactors in one go. And so it can be done real time, and you can drive decisions real time. The market for current bioprocess instrumentation is around 390 million, and we intend to take a share of that because we simply displace a lot of incumbent technology because we do it different and we do it, quite frankly, better. Collaborations and betas in this area will be taking place this year. Okay, so in August, we announced the launch of our soil and water monitoring system. So taking the traditional approach in the picture left above, which is a large, expensive, traditional centralized lab, very much removed from the point of need, i.e. where water contamination happens in our waterways, versus the picture below left, which is our technology in the back of a car, which is in the progress of analyzing water samples which are collected at the point of need. But the real power isn't just about point of need per se, but it's actually the fact that we can install multiples of these units through an ecosystem to measure slices, either geographically or through time, to actually monitor what's going on. And with the addition of AI, artificial intelligence, we can start to make models and predict outcomes. So basically, we're shifting away from, we're not just detecting what's happening, but we can start to predict what's going to happen. Market sizing is a tough one. Some indicative numbers are on the right. You can kind of see some large numbers there. And even if we take a small fraction, you can see that that's quite substantial. We sold a number of units for our partners at Modern Water, who are installing these units along with their own microtox technology through a range of frontline opportunities, water authorities, utilities, and so on. And we're going to be extending that in 2022. And we released RNSs last year about those sales to Deep Virgin Modern Water. In September last year, we announced the opening of our China facility, which is acting as our sales, service, and integration office in China. And that really is important given the fact that China is about to go into lockdown, or is locking down quite significantly in certain geographies within China. Really, this provides a forward capability for us in China. In any case, COVID aside, you can't do business in the UK. For China, you've got to be there. We're still going to be manufacturing in the UK, but basically we are able to integrate and add some value to our instrumentation around workflows and environmental and human health, and also achieve medical license for certain applications in therapeutic drug monitoring. And you need that presence in China to do that. This kind of model we'd like to duplicate elsewhere in other geographies, such as North America. Okay, so slide 9. As part of our wider focus on delivering higher level services, our bioprocessing services will showcase our automated bioprocessing capabilities, and also it enables us to work much closer with contract research organizations, contract development, manufacturing organizations, end user pharma. And really, this is all about detection plus workflow plus software plus AI plus expertise. So the transition for MICROSAIC very much is around, moving away from that, just the detection, the box, and capital, sort of very lumpy sales, towards, selling a complete solution, complete workflow, service, and expertise, and really running the business off a much more smooth annuity model. And then the latter part of the year, we announced the addition of GC, or gas chromatography, capability to our platform. Now, it really is exciting. I know a lot of you won't know what GC and LC is, but basically this massively opens up the numbers or the amounts or the breadth of things that we can actually measure in the markets we're in. So basically, we can now measure complex and simple molecules in a much greater variety of matrices. So we'll be incorporating GC. You can see there's a little GC box there with our small mass spec into our workflow and our automation ethos. And it means we can extend our addressable market considerably at the point of need in our applications in human health and environmental. And that market space is worth over $1 billion today. So I just want to end the quick update on what's really driving the business and outlook. So as I've mentioned, we transitioned, we pivoted the strategy early last year, and we've really spent a lot of time, effort, and energy in transforming the company. We do have some great successes last year in view of that, particularly in H2 as the new business model started to come through. We want to be the solution, not just the box. We want to be purpose-built for Industry 4.0, which enables analytical detection and characterization at the point of need. And that will be driven through our markets in human and environmental health. We are, especially applying effort to driving the sales pipeline in drug bioprocessing, human point of need care, and environmental monitoring in water and soil, so that we have some very, very specific key markets that we are going after, and those are driving not only the development to drive the top line in 2022 in terms of the workflow extensions, but also the commercial relationships that we are pursuing right now and have been pursuing. But ultimately, the aim in 2022 is to significantly drive the top line growth. Okay, so as I said before, 2021 was all about transforming the business. 2022 is really about significant business inflection. So, i.e., growing the top line whilst maintaining some decent margins, sort of extending beyond the capital model, smoothing out the revenue into more of an annuity platform, or an annuity model, should I say. The outlook in 2022 then, we've already entered the year with a healthy sales opportunities pipeline, probably the most healthy I've seen since my tenure, and that's as a result of the transition business model and also some great work from our BD crew. We've got some key revenue opportunities in scientific services, particularly in bioprocessing and water markets, and that's really key. That's new for MICROSAIC. And we're extending our detection platform in human environmental health. I've mentioned the GC capability, bioprocessing and water workflows, therapeutics, etc. So the company intends to grow in conjunction with our partners, particularly DeepVerge in water detection, contract research organizations and CDMOs in bioprocessing. We're going to be really focusing on China, extending our local partners in China, and I should say also in North America. And we are actually pursuing some very chunky OEM and strategic partnerships as we speak. So I'm going to switch my camera back on and hand over to questions.
Glenn, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, do please continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just while Glenn takes a few moments to review those investor questions we've had submitted already, I'd like to remind you that recording the presentation, along with the slide deck and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Glenn, we did receive a number of pre-submitted questions from investors, and perhaps we could start the Q&A session off with these. You have touched on this, but the first one reads as follows: how are things doing in China for MICROSAIC?
Yeah, very, very good. So, we deliberately set up, or deliberately, obviously, we've been exploring setting up a facility in China for a long time, and we've done that now. And you can see some of the pictures on the previous slide and on some of our social media channels. That's really, really helpful. So it means that when we step away from being in China, we've got a physical presence that continues those discussions. They have a great demo facility. They've got very good experience in mass spec, etc., etc. So that's a major change from where we were. Our BD director, who is of Chinese origin, was out in China for 8 weeks prior to Christmas. He managed to get into China, despite there being still some quite significant restrictions on travel to China. And actually, the BD discussions he was having there were really, really transformative. So China for me is it feels a lot closer. It feels more tangible, and it feels like we've got much better momentum now.
Brilliant, thank you indeed. Next one we've got here is, when do you think MICROSAIC will be profitable?
So I can't give that. Translates to profit guidance, obviously, which I can't give. But what I would say is I've got no intention. The board's got no intention of going back for additional funds on the current business model. Naturally, if something really compelling comes our way and it would require additional funding, we would put that to shareholders. And as I said, we're going to release an update on cash position and margins at a later date, but there's no cause for concern there.
Great, thank you, Glenn. Next one we have here is, are delays in the launch of Microtox BT purely due to regulatory issues?
Okay, so Microtox is a deep verge product. Obviously, deep verge and MicroSaic work very, very closely together. What I can't do is update any kind of deep verge centric product information. You need to contact Jerry and company on that one.
Great, thank you, Glenn. Next one we've got here is, does MicroSaic drive any inputs income from products/services of the Skin Trust Club?
Okay, so another deep verge question, but obviously we do have significant overlaps. The direct answer is no, at least not in the short term. However, there are some very good synergies with our technology and where deep verge is heading, particularly in the microbiome. So I wouldn't say that there's immediate, i.e. Income from product sharing in that front between deep verge and MicroSaic, but certainly the collaboration would point in that direction.
How near to completion is the beta testing for bioprocess automation, and when would you expect the first client for this service to commence using it?
Okay, so we run our product development. So we don't spend years just incubating and keeping it to ourselves. We actually do our product development with end users, with collaborators actually. So really from the outset, we're putting things in front of people. So in a way, betaing has been going on. But in anger, this is going to happen in Q1, Q2 of this year, and we'll probably put out some announcements around that to show what progress we're making.
Great, thank you. Since the interim presentations, are we any closer to progress regarding the in situ cancer diagnostics?
No, unfortunately, no. I think we've seen some delays there for a variety of reasons. And what I would say is I still think this is an amazing, early science showed that this is an amazing opportunity for us. And not just in cancer diagnostics, but I think in surgery in general. And we are exploring actually a number of different routes. And again, we'll update you when I've got more on that.
Perfect.
The delay has nothing to do with our technology, by the way.
Perfect. Another China-related question. Have we applied for the China medical license, or does this application have to follow the distribution agreement?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, we haven't yet applied for the license. And actually, I would say that it's probably in the plural, not the singular. So we are talking to a number of Chinese distributors, OEMs, in that market. So it's hopefully the medical license will come off the back of several conversations, not just the one.
Great. Apart from the Omicron outbreak, are there any other issues causing the delay in concluding the agreement with our Chinese distributor? And when do we reasonably expect this to conclude?
Again, it's in the plural. So although we've signed up with the forward sort of facility in China, we're talking to a number of Chinese distributors. So we're not just single source in either a distributor or a market. We're talking to a range. So I wouldn't say that there's. I would say that by having that presence in China is actually accelerating those discussions rather than hindering them, even with Omicron and any other virus. Indeed, I don't see any other downside particularly to what we've done. In fact, as I say, by putting that in place, it's very much upside.
Fantastic. And this is the penultimate pre-submitted question we've got. Can you quantify the annual saving, if any, in reduced expenses, e.g. salaries, R&D, rents, marketing, etc., from the collaboration with DeepVerge?
I sort of look at it as more as upside. So of course there's savings. So at the moment we're using their Cat2 facility for a nice application in blood serum testing, actually. I can't give any more details right now, but obviously, MICROSAIC does not have a Category 2 facility, so that would cost hundreds of thousands of pounds to put in place, and we're able to use DeepVerge's sales channel. So we sold a nice chunk of instruments to Modern Water using their sales channel. I've always said that that's one of the reasons we teamed up with DeepVerge is their sales channel, and so therefore MICROSAIC hasn't had to invest in I don't know how many people and offices to do that. So I mean there are real world savings, but I kind of look at it more as upside actually than savings. But sure, there will have been potential savings by doing so.
Fantastic. The last question we've got here pre-submitted is: the overabundance of warrants seems to be seriously holding the true value down. Do you have any plans to address this?
Okay, share price. So there have been no warrants or options or anything else exercised. That's the first thing. My reflection on share price is it's all about short-term selling, short-term profit making. It's across the board. Retail, there is some institutional churn, and really, the board can't stop buyers or sellers. We just cannot. Okay. And also, I just can't give you guidance on where the share price is going to be in a year. I've got my own feelings on it, but I can't give any financial advice, I'm afraid. What I can do is give you an understanding of where the company has been, in terms of transitioning last year and where it intends to go. And that is sort of significant business inflection. And really, my goal is significant long-term value in the company, both in terms of real term and hopefully in share price. I'm not going to, this isn't about day-to-day, share price, inflection. This is about creating the long term for the company and for shareholders. And as I said, 2021 all about transition. 2022 is now about building on that and providing that long-term value.
Great. That concludes the pre-submitted questions, Glenn. As you can see, we've received a number of questions today, and thank you to all the investors for submitting those. Glenn, can I just ask you to click on that Q&A tab, and where appropriate to do so, just read out the question, give your response. If you could start at the top, that would be great.
Okay, AZA, when will we hit the 1p mark? I don't know. As I say, I can't give you guidance on share price. Have DeepVerge negotiated any exclusive agreements for the provision of any MICROSAIC products or services? I don't know whether they're negotiating exclusive. I know that they are extensively negotiating. They're doing a great job, actually. As to the nature of those agreements, I don't necessarily have the insight into it. We're providing the kit into them and the expertise. Again, it's probably a question for DeepVerge. Is it possible to apply monetary value to patents held by MICROSAIC? probably not an easy one to do. You can value patents, but that sort of tends to seriously undervalue the execution of them. The value is in the eye of the beholder. Suffice to say, we've got a platform that is well covered by patents, and we intend to sort of inflect the top line with the deployment of those patents in products and services. So it's a really hard one to answer. Lots of exciting opportunities. Is there a risk of spreading ourselves too thinly? Could we be more focused in one market application versus spreading out from there? Yeah, I mean, if I was, I'd probably be accused of being too focused. I mean, you've seen, obviously with environmental factors, COVID, the supply issue, emerging regulation, environmental, the shift in sort of the demand for human health, there's not one market that you would necessarily go for. And actually, you do want a degree of spread, and human and environmental health are the two markets we've decided to go for. But even in there, we decided to focus. Environmental health is water monitoring. Human health really is about drug manufacture and therapeutic drug monitoring. So, there is quite a degree of focus within those markets. And the key is that, we've built a platform of technology which you can extend through workflows, services, businesses, etc., into those markets. But the key technology is actually, very similar. It's just how you go about deploying it. So, yeah, I'm happy that we are, both spread and focused, right? So, we're not going to be entering any radically new markets, but we're not going to be chopping markets off, because I think that would be that wouldn't have long-term value. You're quite right to seek to give us positive outlook, but can you tell us what looming downsides or problems we should be aware of? The continued pandemic, I don't know. You see the same news as I do. I think we're coming out of it. I think travel restrictions will ease off. I think it'll be patchy. China's probably the big one for us, where I think that will linger. But as I say, having that facility in China is going to help us. And really, to the previous question, what are the downsides? I mean, there's always going to be a cyclic aspect to any market, and the key thing is to spread yourself enough where you can sort of ride over the cycles in one market with the other, but not too much where you're frankly stuck because you've got too much going on. So I don't see any particular looming downsides at the moment, apart from the ones you read about in the press. When are you going to need additional capital? I don't intend on any with the current business model. As I say, if there's anything coming out of any discussions we're having where there's an amazing opportunity that requires funding, but there is a decent upside, we'll let you know. To what extent do you see supply issues affecting growth in the next year? Yeah, I mean, you've seen that they affected 10% of orders to sales last year. So 2021, we had over 1 million of orders and shipped 0.9. So whether that's an indicative measure of the extent of it, but essentially what we're doing is forward buying. So whereas we would have, our processes, we've got a very controlled manufacturing and supply chain process where we may have called off every quarter. We're just extending it to do that in advance for long lead time parts, and that's how everybody is managing it. Of course, so we don't know where we're going to end up, but as globally, I mean, but we're doing our best to mitigate. What's the competition for MICROSAIC? Oh God, how long do you have? I mean, mass spectrometry is a $7 billion market if you just look at mass spectrometry. What I would say is that we are not So, our technology is mass spectrometry. We're not selling mass spectrometry. Mass spectrometry is a very, very powerful technique, and what we've been able to do is to shrink the technology down and access new markets that I've briefly described in the presentation, and tons of RNSs where mass spectrometry isn't being used. So there is no competition. It's about sort of either displacing different technologies or being first mover advantage in certain markets. Yeah, comment on private investors being cannon fodder for large players. I was asked last time if I thought 0.25 was cheap. I do. I really do. But that's my own personal feeling here. It's we're not in this to screw personal private investors. We've consistently put out good news. We are consistent. The executive and the board are consistent in driving the business, and that's what we'll continue to do. We can't stop shareholders selling, as we can't make them buy. So hopefully with increased continued good news, the situation will change. Are we looking at working with other universities in, say, food, mining, or chemical? Yeah, I mean, I think to the question before, we are focusing our efforts. So, mining isn't, for example, isn't a target market for us. But yeah, I mean, the aim is to certainly work with academic institutions where relevant. There's got to be a decent and very clear payoff for MICROSAIC to do that, and often sometimes with academic collaborations, it can be quite lengthy. So no, absolutely, and there are some very good ones in the UK. Okay, so I think that's most of the questions I can answer there, Paul.
That's fantastic, Glenn. Thank you very much indeed for addressing those questions. And of course, Glenn will review all questions submitted there. If any further questions come through, and we'll publish responses where appropriate to do so on the Investor Meet Company platform. Again, before redirecting investors to provide you with some feedback, which I know is particularly important to you, could I ask you for a few closing comments, please?
Yeah, of course. I mean, sort of reflecting on last year, the COVID era, really demonstrated a need for faster solutions to real world problems, and it's shown the ingenuity of scientists to meet that challenge. And in particular, I think we've seen that real-time detection is a central facet to that. And I hope what you can see is that MICROSAIC is really well placed, therefore, to demonstrate that response to that post-COVID era mindset that is now with us, which is just acceleration to market across a range of different applications, such as in frontline biologics and environmental water. And I'm really encouraged how MICROSAIC bounced back after COVID. And in fact, we're a lot stronger than what we were entering COVID. For a variety of reasons. The funding at the beginning of the year, the transition that we put in place with the board. And so, I'm really very pleased with MICROSAIC's bounce back, and very excited about 2022.
Glenn, thank you, and thank you for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close the session? You should be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that Glenn and the team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure is greatly valued by the company. On behalf of Glenn and MICROSAIC Systems PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That concludes today's session. Thank you and good morning to you all.